The massive white dog lunges forward, teeth bared, a deep growl rumbling from his chest. Everyone scatters, pressing themselves against the shelter walls. Everyone except 7-year-old Lily, who stands perfectly still in the center of the room. The 120-pound Dogo Argentino named Titan freezes, his dark eyes locked with the little girl's. The shelter staff holds their breath. This dog has rejected every handler for months, snapping at anyone who dares come close. But as Lily slowly extends her tiny hand, palm up, the impossible happens. Titan's ears soften, his rigid posture melting as he takes one hesitant step toward her. Before we continue, if you enjoy heartwarming stories of unexpected animal connections, make sure to click that subscribe button. This is the best way for you to support our work. Thank you very much, and let's continue. 6 months earlier, the animal control officers approached the abandoned property with extreme caution. Multiple calls had come in about an aggressive white dog terrorizing the neighborhood, chasing people off the property, and frightening local residents. What they found was devastating. A once magnificent Dogo Argentino, severely underweight, covered in scars, and chained to a rusted post behind a foreclosed home. Officer Martinez, a 20-year veteran of animal control, had seen plenty of abused dogs before, but something about this one made his heart sink. We couldn't get within 15 feet without him lunging and barking. You could see the fear in his eyes, though. This wasn't aggression. This was survival. It took 3 officers, specialized equipment, and over 2 hours to safely secure the dog and transport him to the county shelter. The massive white beast fought every step of the way, his powerful jaws snapping at the catch poles. His muscular body, even in its emaciated state, revealed the powerful breed beneath the neglect. At the shelter, the staff named him Titan, a name that reflected both his imposing size and the strength he must have possessed to survive his ordeal. The medical examination revealed the grim reality of his previous life. Deep scarring around his neck from the too-tight chain, poorly healed wounds consistent with dogfighting, and severe malnutrition. But beyond the physical wounds, it was the psychological damage that concerned the shelter veterinarian the most. This breed is naturally protective and loyal, Dr. Keller explained to the shelter manager. But when they're abused and used for fighting, that protective instinct warps into fear and aggression. Whoever had him didn't just neglect him. They betrayed everything this breed is meant to be. Days turned into weeks as Titan remained in isolation at the back of the shelter. Standard protocols required that aggressive dogs be given rehabilitation attempts before any decisions about their future could be made. But progress was painfully slow. Experienced handlers could barely enter his kennel to provide food and water without protective gear. The staff began to whisper among themselves about Titan's chances. Dogs that couldn't be approached couldn't be adopted, and resources were always limited. Jessica Morgan, the shelter's most experienced rehabilitation specialist, refused to give up. Dogo Argentinos were bred to hunt wild boar and mountain lions. She told her colleagues during a staff meeting. They're courageous, loyal, and incredibly intelligent. This isn't who he is. It's what someone made him into. Jessica implemented a careful, patient rehabilitation plan. She spent hours sitting outside Titan's kennel, just talking softly without making eye contact. She fed him by hand, pushing high-value treats through the kennel bars, then gradually moving her fingers deeper inside as days passed. Progress was measured in inches, literally, as she tracked how close she could get before Titan's warning growl began. After 3 months, Titan would allow Jessica to enter his kennel, but only her. Anyone else who approached was met with raised hackles and bared teeth. Even with Jessica, physical contact remained impossible. The shelter director was running out of patience, especially as the kennels filled with more adoptable dogs during kitten and puppy season. "I understand what you're trying to do, Jess," the director said during their monthly review meeting. "But we've given him more time and resources than any other case this year. At some point, we have to make the hard call about quality of life and public safety." Jessica knew what those words meant. As she left the office, she couldn't hold back her tears. She had seen something in Titan's eyes, not aggression, but a profound, deep-seated pain and distrust that broke her heart. That evening, she posted Titan's story on the shelter's social media page. hoping against hope that someone with experience rehabilitating traumatized dogs might step forward. Miles away, in a suburban home filled with photographs of animals, Maria Fernandez was scrolling through her phone before bed. As a veterinary technician and mother of 3, her days were filled with caring for creatures both at work and at home. Her youngest daughter, Lily, had inherited her mother's natural affinity for animals, particularly those others had given up on. "Mama, look at this one," Lily said, peering over her mother's shoulder at the shelter's post about Titan. The child's eyes widened at the image of the powerful white dog, his dark eyes staring intensely at the camera. Where others might see danger, Lily saw something different. Maria shook her head immediately. "Absolutely not, Micha. That's a very dangerous dog, and we already have 2 rescues." Their home already housed an ancient 3-legged cat named Tripod and a nervous Chihuahua mix that had taken months to stop hiding under the furniture. But Lily couldn't forget Titan's eyes. Over breakfast the next morning, she mentioned him again. During dinner, she asked if they could just visit the shelter. By the weekend, Maria found herself weakening. Not because she thought they could adopt such a challenging case, but because she wanted to teach Lily about the realities of animal rescue work. "We can go visit, but only to learn," Maria explained carefully as they drove to the shelter. "Some animals have been through too much trauma to be family pets. It's sad, but it's important to understand." Lily nodded solemnly from her booster seat, her dark curls bouncing with the car's movement. At 7 years old, she had already witnessed the slow, patient work of rehabilitation with their current pets. She understood more than most children her age about the effects of trauma. At the shelter, Jessica greeted them with surprise when Maria mentioned they'd come about Titan. Few people had responded to the post, and none had actually shown up. "I should warn you," Jessica said, glancing at Lily. "He's not good with strangers. You won't be able to get close to his kennel, and he might bark aggressively." Maria nodded, holding Lily's hand firmly. "We understand. My daughter just wanted to see him, but I've explained we're not in a position to take on a dog with these challenges." Jessica led them through the kennel area, passing rows of dogs who rushed to the front of their enclosures, tails wagging hopefully. At the very back, separated from the other dogs, was Titan's kennel. Even from a distance, his imposing presence was unmistakable. A muscular white shadow pacing behind the bars. "We need to stay back here," Jessica explained, stopping about 15 feet from the kennel. "This is as close as most staff can get without triggering his defensive behavior." Titan had spotted them already, his powerful body rigid with attention. A now, rumbling growl carried across the distance as he fixed his eyes on the newcomers. What happened next would change everything. Lily slipped her hand from her mother's grasp before anyone could react. With the innocent fearlessness of childhood, she walked directly toward Titan's kennel, stopping just a few feet away. "Millie," Maria's panicked voice cut through the air as she lunged forward, but Jessica held her back. "Wait," Jessica whispered, her eyes wide. "Look at him." Titan had gone completely still. The growling had stopped. His ears, usually flattened against his head in the presence of strangers, were perked forward with interest. His intense focus was entirely on the small girl standing before him. "Hi, Titan," Lily said softly, as if greeting an old friend. "I'm Lily. I saw your picture. You looked sad." To the astonishment of both adults, Titan approached the front of the kennel slowly, his body language transforming from threatening to curious. There was no growling, no bare teeth, just careful, measured movement as he drew closer to the child. "I've never seen him like this," Jessica breathed, hardly daring to move. "He's completely different." Maria watched, her heart pounding, as her daughter and the massive dog regarded each other with mutual fascination. Something profound and unexplainable was happening. A connection that defied the shelter's months of careful protocols and professional intervention. "Can I come closer?" Lily asked, looking back at the adults. Jessica hesitated, torn between professional caution and the miraculous scene unfolding before her. "Let me go in first," she finally said. "I need to make sure it's safe." Jessica approached Titan's kennel with the careful movements of someone who knew his triggers. To her amazement, Titan barely acknowledged her, his attention fixed on Lily. When Jessica entered the kennel, Titan remained calm, a first in the presence of the child. "I think," Jessica said slowly, "he might let you come in with me, but you have to stay right beside me and move very slowly." With Maria's reluctant permission and Jessica's hand firmly holding hers, Lily entered Titan's space. The massive dog watched, his dark eyes tracking their every movement, but the aggression that had defined him for months was nowhere to be seen. Lily sat down on the concrete floor beside Jessica, making herself small and unthreatening. Then, with the natural instinct that some children possess, she yawned widely and looked away from Titan, giving him the space to approach on his terms. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then, with deliberate slowness, Titan moved forward. Jessica remained perfectly still as the dog she'd been unable to touch for months stretched his neck out, his nose inching toward Lily's outstretched hand. The moment his muzzle touched her palm, something in Titan seemed to release. A tremor ran through his powerful body, and he exhaled deeply, as if letting go of a burden he'd carried too long. "He's smelling all our animals on me," Lily explained matter-of-factly. "We have lots of pets at home." That first visit lasted only 15 minutes, but it changed everything. Jessica immediately began documenting the interaction, photographing Titan's transformed body language and taking notes on his behavior. For the first time since his arrival, Titan had allowed human contact without signs of fear or aggression. "What happens to him now?" Lily asked as they prepared to leave. Jessica exchanged glances with Maria. "We'll continue working with him. Today was incredible, but rehabilitation takes time. Can we come back?" Lily looked up at her mother with pleading eyes. Maria, still processing the miracle she'd witnessed, found herself nodding. "We'll talk about it." That visit became the first of many. 3 times a week, Maria would bring Lily to the shelter after school. Each time, Titan's response to the little girl grew warmer, his dark eyes lighting up at her arrival. Jessica carefully structured these interactions, using them to help Titan generalize his trust beyond just Lily. "You sit here," Lily would instruct her mother, demonstrating how to avoid eye contact and present a non-threatening posture. Week by week, Titan began to accept Maria's presence, then Jessica's colleagues, then eventually other select volunteers. The shelter director, initially skeptical, couldn't deny the remarkable transformation. "I've worked in animal rescue for 20 years, she admitted, watching through the observation window as Lily read a book aloud to the now relaxed Titan. "I've never seen anything quite like this." Experts who visited the shelter to observe the case offered various explanations. Some suggested that Lily's size made her less threatening. Others proposed that children's higher-pitched voices and different body language triggered fewer defensive responses. A few wondered if Titan had positive associations with children from his life before the abuse. But for those who witnessed the bond developing between Lily and Titan, the connection seemed to transcend scientific explanation. There was something in the way they communicated, a pure, wordless understanding that bypassed Titan's trauma and reached the noble heart of the dog he was meant to be. After 2 months of regular visits, Jessica approached Maria with a careful question. "Have you considered adopting him?" Maria's immediate response was hesitation. "He's made incredible progress, but we live in a neighborhood full of children and other pets. His history is exactly that history," Jessica finished. "I wouldn't suggest this if I didn't believe he was ready. We could start with home visits, see how he adjusts to your environment." The first home visit was planned with meticulous care. Titan would come for just 2 hours, with both Jessica and an animal behaviorist present. Maria arranged for her other children to stay with their grandmother and secured their existing pets in a separate part of the house. When Titan arrived, everyone expected some regression. New environments often triggered anxiety in traumatized animals. Instead, with Lily calmly leading him by a loose leash, Titan entered the house with cautious curiosity. He explored each room methodically, always checking back with Lily as if seeking her guidance. "He's mapping escape routes and resources," the behaviorist explained. "Water, exits, safe corners is actually very healthy behavior." By the third home visit, Titan was staying overnight. By the 5th, Maria found herself completing adoption paperwork, still hardly believing the journey that had brought them to this point. Integrating Titan into the family's daily life required patience and structure. Maria installed secure fencing, worked with trainers on controlled introductions to the other pets, and established clear routines that helped Titan feel secure. The process wasn't without challenges. Titan still showed wariness around unfamiliar men, and loud noises could trigger momentary anxiety. But his transformation continued to astonish everyone who had known him in those early shelter days. Most remarkable was his relationship with Lily. In her presence, the once feared dog became gentle, attentive, and playful. He would lie patiently as she practiced reading aloud, his massive head resting on her lap. At night, he would sleep on the floor beside her bed, his ears alert to any unusual sounds in the house. 6 months after the adoption, Maria received a call from Jessica. The shelter was holding a special event to celebrate successful rehabilitation cases, and they wanted to feature Titan and Lily. The event was held on a bright Saturday morning in the shelter's outdoor training area. Families mingled while rescued dogs of all shapes and sizes demonstrated how far they had come. When it was their turn, Lily led Titan through a series of basic obedience commands, his focus on her absolute despite the crowd of onlookers. Among those watching was Officer Martinez, who had been part of Titan's initial rescue. The veteran animal control officer shook his head in disbelief as he watched the same dog who had once been too dangerous to approach now gently taking treats from a child's hand. "If you hadn't told me this was the same dog," he told Jessica, "I wouldn't have believed it." Jessica smiled. Sometimes they just need the right person to believe in them. As the event concluded, a local reporter approached Maria for a comment about Titan's journey. "Everyone calls it a rescue story," Maria said, watching as Lily and Titan posed for photographs together. "But sometimes I wonder who rescued whom. Lily was always a compassionate child, but Titan has taught her about patience, responsibility, and the profound impact of unconditional love. They've changed each other's lives. Today, Titan continues to thrive in his forever home. The scars on his body have faded, though they'll never completely disappear, much like the emotional scars that still occasionally manifest in moments of uncertainty. But with each passing day, those moments become fewer and further between. The once aggressive dog who no one could touch has become a certified therapy dog, visiting children's hospitals alongside Lily to offer comfort to young patients. The massive white Dogo who once inspired fear now brings hope and healing, his gentle demeanor with vulnerable children defying his powerful appearance. Their story has inspired the shelter to develop a specialized program for rehabilitating dogs with severe trauma, recognizing that sometimes the conventional approaches aren't enough. They call it the Titan Protocol, focusing on identifying the unique connections that might reach past defense mechanisms built through years of abuse. For Lily, now 9 years old, the experience has solidified her determination to work with animals when she grows up. "Everyone deserves a second chance," she explains with the simple wisdom of childhood. "Sometimes they just need someone to see who they really are, not who they had to be to survive." As for Titan, he has become something of a local celebrity. People who once crossed the street to avoid the dangerous white dog now stop to greet him, marveling at his transformation. He carries himself with the dignified bearing characteristic of his breed, walking proudly beside his young handler. In the evenings, when the household settles into quiet routines, Titan can often be found in Lily's room, his large body curled protectively around her as she reads or draws. In these peaceful moments, it's hard to imagine the frightened, aggressive animal he once was, a testament to the remarkable capacity for healing that exists in both humans and animals when they find the right connection. Their journey together continues to unfold, a living reminder that sometimes the most profound change comes not from sophisticated techniques or professional interventions, but from the simple, powerful alchemy that happens when one heart recognizes another, regardless of species, history, or circumstance. And in that recognition, that moment when Lily first stood before Titan's kennel without fear, everything changed.